Yes, we made it. We are live. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Should You Take That Case? And the goal of our show is to be a resource for legal professionals who pursue medical cases by sharing their experiences and insights as defense or maybe plaintiff attorneys, which is what's happening today. So it's me, Lisa Wade, your host and legal nurse consultant, owner of Wade Nurse Consultants, also the creator of our LinkedIn private group, Attorney Medical Record Resource Group, which is where all of our stellar attorney guests hail from. We use it as an opportunity to get to know one another, and we're going to do that today with our guest, Michael Sorich from Illinois. But first, let's get over to the chat and the comments and see, is anybody visiting us live today? If you are, say hello. If you're an attorney, put an A in that chat. If you are an entrepreneur of any kind, put an E in that chat. If you are a member of Women Owned Law, let me just put that up there. Yes, which is a wonderful organization that I am a part of. Put a W in that chat. Women Owned Law, it's a groundbreaking group that is created to connect and advance women legal entrepreneurs. So come over to LinkedIn, take a peek at Women Owned Law, and see if it's something you might like. Next, let's see. Oh, let's see. Let me take a peek. No, we have a few live visitors. Hello. Let us know who you are, where you're from. Put that in the comments so we can say hello to you. But if you're catching us on the replay, do the same. Put a in that chat if you're an attorney, a W in there if you're part of Women Owned Law, and N if you are a new viewer. Thank you for taking your time to say hello, take a look, and get to learn more about our next guest, which is Michael Sorich. It's time to introduce him. And here we go. CAVANAGH Law Group partner Michael J. Sorich is a veteran trial attorney who has obtained more than $70 million in verdicts and settlements for clients in Illinois and across the United States. The former prosecutor has expertise in every facet of personal injury law and boasts extensive experience in trucking, wrongful death, and medical malpractice cases. Michael has extensive expertise in trucking, transit, and rideshare cases, and has obtained numerous settlements and verdicts in excess of $1 million. Some of his significant cases include a $5 million settlement for a man whose hand was amputated by an industrial machine at his workplace, and a $3.6 million wrongful death settlement for the family of a woman who died after hospital staff failed to perform a necessary MRI. Oh boy. Now we're going to bring Michael on. Let's find the. There he is. And there's Michael.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks for having me on your show today.
Oh, thank you for being here. It's wonderful to have you. And I hear Illinois is just as hot as it is here in Pennsylvania, downtown Chicago.
Nice and steamy in the loop here in Chicago. That's right.
Oh boy. Well, we've got that in common, amongst other things.
Right. Summertime in Chicago.
Well, what we do here today is it's a chance to talk about how you all manage those medical records that come with these medical type cases that you deal with. And we're going to talk about that. But before we do, I want to know, a little bit more about you and your journey to become the lawyer that you are. Did 5-year-old Michael know he wanted to be an attorney? Go back as far as you have to.
Sure, Lisa. Again, thanks for having me. So, I was an accounting major in college. And even before that, my dad was a Chicago police officer many years ago. So I always heard stories that he would tell around the house. And after my senior year, well, going into my senior year, I had an internship at an accounting firm. And when they basically put me in front of a spreadsheet for the entire summer, I realized that wasn't something that I wanted to do. So I ended up taking a job. I volunteered at the McLean County State's Attorney's Office, which is downstate central Illinois, when I went back to college. And I loved it because they basically put me in a courtroom every day. And I literally just got to shadow the prosecutors. So I thought it was awesome. Ended up going to law school right after I graduated from Illinois Wesleyan University. And after that, I went right into being a prosecutor, which is what I did for 13 years before coming to CAVANAGH Law Group, where we exclusively handle plaintiffs' personal injury cases. So I certainly, in the prosecutor's office, learned the ropes, so to speak. I tried over 50 cases, worked my way up from starting in traffic court to misdemeanors to felony cases, trying everything from guns, drugs, murder cases, which obviously gained me valuable trial experience, which I can now implement for my clients who get catastrophically injured in the courtroom on the other side in the civil arena.
All right, excellent. Well, accounting has lost a CPA, but thank goodness the law has gained you. Does tax time make you, you know?
Oh, it makes the hair on the back of my neck. No, right. No, thank you. Yeah.
All right. No secret longings going.
No, none at all. Not at all. Put me in the courtroom.
It sounds like you're where you really need to be, where you enjoy being.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
All right. Well, now we get into how do you choose those cases that you take? How do you decide if a case is worth pursuing or if you should, send it to another attorney down the way, or if it's not worth pursuing at all?
Sure. Good question, Lisa. So at our firm, we get cases all the time. I mean, on a daily basis, the phone is ringing. And it's a wide range of cases. We don't specialize in one area of plaintiff's work over another, which I love. I love the variety of being able to handle medical malpractice, trucking cases, construction cases. And I think what kind of sets us apart from the get-go is we're very aggressive in terms of once the phone rings, if you have to go out and meet with a client or a potential client. But really, the factors in deciding whether or not we're going to get involved in a case. I mean, we certainly look at issues of liability, of course, but then on the damages perspective, just trying to understand the nature and extent of somebody's injuries. Clearly that will drive jury verdicts, that'll drive cases in terms of someone who's catastrophically injured as opposed to someone who may have had an injury. It was an unfortunate situation, but has since recuperated. So oftentimes when we're analyzing a case, determining if we're going to get involved, I want to know the permanency of somebody's injuries to the extent they know it at that point in time. But certainly medical malpractice cases and other types of cases can get very costly to prosecute. We could spend upwards of $100,000 in the blink of an eye in a medical malpractice case. So you need to kind of balance that in terms of what is somebody's injuries, because you could get all the best experts in the world, but at the end of the day, if the damages are somewhat minimal or what you're asking for in front of a jury, is that going to make sense? Does that make sense to me as the lawyer? Does that make sense to the potential client? So those are certainly some of the things we look at in terms of, are we going to get involved in a case? Is it where we see this case proceeding? And again, if it's something that we're interested in, we jump on it, right on the spot if need be.
Mm-hmm. It must be hard explaining that to some of your potential clients, to weigh that cost and benefit kind of thing.
It certainly is. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned the $3.6 million settlement we had. That was a case that we resolved a few years ago. But even in that case, I mean, I hired a Harvard professor who teaches at Harvard Medical School emergency medicine. So, that was just one of several experts. So, again, as you can imagine, that those costs increase. So you got to look at it. Obviously that woman unfortunately passed away due to medical negligence. But are you going to really go out and hire that Harvard emergency room doctor if somebody thinks that they should have been casted instead of splinted when they had something wrong with their arm? So.
All right. And how about when all of those copious amounts of medical records come piling on your desk for some of these cases? What kind of protocol or process do you have to address them when medical records rear their ugly heads?
And inevitably, they rear their head in every case because, obviously, past medical is a component of damages here in Illinois. So, and no matter what type of case, the medicine side of things is a large component of it. So systematically, it's important for plaintiffs' lawyers and defense lawyers, for that matter, just to be as organized as possible when those records come in. That's why using consulting services like yourself, it can provide a nice chronology of events, assuming that you get these records in a timely fashion. You can, as the lawyer, or outsource it to a service that can at least detail a chronology for you, so that way hey, you know what, I'm missing certain gaps of treatment, whether it's physical therapy or whatever the nature of the case is. It's obviously vital in terms of not only getting those records, but just being on top of it. We actually have someone in our office who her specific role is to request records and make sure that they're following up so that we have everything.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Excellent. Now, what, if anything, do you find the most difficult, the most anxiety producing, the most bothersome about dealing with medical records involved in your cases?
Well, I think a big component of that is having a good line of communication with the client or the potential client, because from a potential case, let's say somebody calls and thinks they may have a medical malpractice case, I'm going to want to see all of those records. And oftentimes people will call and say, well, I have 10 pages of records. I was just at the hospital for 2 days. I'm like, that's not good enough. You need to go back to that facility and get those records, because you can't just look at a possible medical malpractice case in just a spectrum. You need to have everything in order to, for me to properly assess the case. And the law in Illinois is we need to have a medical consultant, a physician, MD, sign an affidavit that he or she believes there's medical negligence in a case. So that's why it's vital. And oftentimes people just don't know. They think they have the records, but oftentimes they don't have a complete set of medical records. So oftentimes with potential clients, I'm always going back saying, do I have everything? I need this. Because the more organized you can get, the better, obviously, because I need to assess those records, and then I need to send them out to a physician consultant to get his or her opinion whether or not we have a viable case. And also with that, I think it's important maintaining that line of communication with the client. Let's say that we ultimately get involved in a case. You're going to want to know every doctor that client has been to I always say ever. They always kind of look at me and roll their eyes, but at least for the last 10, 15, 20 years, because no matter the case, whether it's a truck crash, an auto case, a med mal case, you're going to want to know that client's prior history. And by being organized and creating your own timeline or chronology, whether it's you as the lawyer or outsourcing it to a company, that will assist me as the lawyer when it's time for that client's deposition, because I can pull out the chronology and help prepare my client and say, okay, this event happened to you in November of last year. Well, you went and followed up with the doctor in December, and oftentimes, as time goes on, people's memories kind of fade in time. So that's why being as organized and detailed as possible, it will certainly help in the preparation of your case once it ultimately gets geared up and ready to go to trial.
Yeah, incompleteness of medical records is, I think, a giantly frustrating topic for me, and you as well.
Yes, and what has been your experience in terms of when you find something out that you believe to be incomplete? I mean, is there a tip that you can provide us in terms of just other than just going back to the client and saying, hey, get us this stuff? Or
sometimes things are missing for multiple reasons. Missing because it was excluded intentionally. It could be missing because it was never written down and never a part of the record. I guess, I don't make suppositions about why things are missing, but what I can do is I can tell you that something's missing. It not being there doesn't deter me from knowing what should be there. So I guess I can give attorneys like yourself just a good view of what's missing. So I find that handy or helpful.
Sure.
All right. And last question, what kind of advice, and I know you must have some advice to share with any newbie attorneys that are dealing with these types of medical cases, or even veteran attorneys, what do you have to say to help them decide whether they should take those cases?
Sure. Excellent question, Lisa. So I think first and foremost, it's vital to act very quickly and diligently to get through what records you do have, because then you can determine just what you were just saying. You can figure out what's missing so that you can in order to adequately evaluate whether this is a case that you're going to proceed forward on. And oftentimes I find it very useful to be doing my own medical research. I mean, I have the emergency medicine Rosens and Tinatelli sitting on my desk there. So depending on the issue involved in the case, you're going to want to first of all do your own research. Ideally, if you can find policies and procedures of that hospital, or whether it could possibly be specific to your state, are there rules, guidelines that should have been followed that you can prove that were in fact violated? I always go to the jury instructions. I always look, how am I going to prove my case? And I think that kind of goes back to my prosecutor days, where as a prosecutor, you're thinking to yourself, how are you going to prove this case? Beyond a reasonable doubt, how am I going to prove that this defendant committed whatever crime? Similarly, in a civil case, you're going to look at those jury instructions, figure out what elements you need to prove, and then you're going to go about and figure out how are you going to prove it. And I always sit down and I always make out basically a roadmap. So I'll have my elements in a case, and I have my roadmap of how am I going to accomplish and prove each of these elements. Is it through my expert that I'm going to retain? Is it through an admission from the defendant doctor? Is it using one of the hospital facility's own policies and procedures against them? It obviously is very dependent upon what type of case you're involved, but ultimately, by looking at those elements and then sitting down and creating your roadmap, I think is very useful, at least in my mind, in how I'm going to prove my case. One last comment I'd also make to that, Lisa, is try to develop a relationship with treating physicians in cases. And obviously this is a specific point to plaintiff's lawyers, because particularly in Illinois, defense attorneys can't go talk to the treating doctors But in Illinois, as a plaintiff's lawyer, I can pick up the phone and call the treating physician. Now, I need to certainly bring that up, and I'll talk about it in a deposition. I'll say, Dr. Smith, you and I met for 15 minutes before this deposition, or we had a phone call last week and we talked about your patient, my client, Mary Jane. But by developing a relationship with treating doctors, I found a couple of things. I found, first of all, even in Chicago, you run into the same doctors. So it's like, oh, hey, Dr. Smith, that's right. Yeah, we had another case together. And then to the extent that, those doctors might agree to be an expert witness for you, maybe act as a consultant, maybe a doctor, who you developed a relationship with, you may be comfortable enough to pick up the phone and say, hey, doc, let me run something by you. This woman called about this possible medical case. If I send you all the records, would you be willing to take a look at it for me? We work with a lot of physicians across the United States in terms of looking and evaluating at some of our cases if they're meritorious and we're going to move forward on them. But having that, ability to pick up the phone and call somebody who's local, who I've known just based on other cases, has also been very advantageous.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like really excellent advice. I hope everybody's listening. Well, I think we've come to the end of our questions. You've answered a lot of questions, but now it's time for a little question and answer period from any of our viewers. I want you to get your questions together for Michael and jot them down. Get ready to put them inside the comment section, and he's going to answer them. But while you're getting those questions together, it is time for what I call a small commercial break. And without a review and summary of medical records, it might be a little harder for you attorneys to know if you should take that case. And at Wade Nurse Consultants, we give a 1 to 2 page summary and opinion regarding the merits of those medical cases that you have, by using my 30 plus years of nursing experience to make quick work of your medical case screening. So if you're watching this and you are ready to get clarity on your medical issues and free yourself to focus on your legal strategies, here's what you do. Right now at Wade Nurse Consultants, we are offering a free 20-minute medical case strategy call. And in that call, we'll help you hone an efficient, timely, and cost-effective routine around your medical cases. So click on the link that's going to appear in this chat and schedule that call. And now back to Michael's Q&A session. Let's see, Michael, are there anybody has any comments or questions? Not yet. So that's all right. If not live on the replay, you can get Michael's contact information. It's going to be in the description box inside of this YouTube channel. I nestled it there. So if you have any questions that come up, you can either put them in the comments and Michael will answer them, or reach out to him directly and he will answer your questions. I'm pretty sure, won't you, Michael?
Absolutely. Happy to.
Excellent. All right. So I'm going to take one more look in the comments and see if we have any questions today. Not yet. So I think we're going to end up winding up this session of our show. And thank you so much for coming, Michael.
Thank you again, Lisa, for having me. It was a pleasure.
Excellent. And I always ask this one question: will we see you again?
Absolutely.
All right. Well,
let me know. I'm happy to join.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It is wonderful. You're easy to talk to. You're easy to listen to. So I hope to have you back again soon.
Wonderful.
All right.
Do it.
So we're going to be closing up today, and thank thanking Michael for coming. He says he's going to come back again soon. You'll find his contact information inside the YouTube channel description box and reach out. And in the meantime, please like this show, like this video, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. And if you have any legal nurse consulting questions, chronology questions, feel free to reach out to me on at my email. Let's just put that down there, lisa@wadenurseconsultants.com. That'll also be in the description box. And what you'll do is hopefully join us next week when our guest will be Paul Layton from New York. And come and see us Monday, 5:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another episode of Should You Take That Case? Thanks for coming, Michael.
Thanks for having me, Lisa.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.